There is a kind of pain that not even death can extinguish. This is the story of a warrior who died screaming, begging for help, and came back. But not to save them anymore, she came back to betray them. Before hatred existed, Pumyra was a soldier, trained from a young age to defend Thundera with her body if necessary. In times of peace, she was one of the least noticeable among her people, disciplined, quiet. Always the first to arrive at the guard post and the last to leave it. She did her duty without expecting anything, believing duty was the only thing that never left you. Or so she thought. When the core of Thundera began to fail, and the entire planet started to crack from within, Pumyra didn't hesitate for a second. He stayed behind to help evacuate his people. To the ships, guiding the weakest through streets that were already splitting into fiery chasms, while around him the buildings collapsed and the sky filled with ash and lightning. He saw soldiers fall whom he had known all his life. He saw temples fall that he believed were eternal. And he kept helping, because retreating was never an option his training had taught him. It was then that the rubble of her own world fell upon her. She was trapped under tons of stone, her body shattered, watching the sky of Thundera split in flames above her head. And in the distance, amidst the chaos, she made out what was left of the royal flagship, getting ready to depart. There he was, the young heir, the one who was supposed to lead them, boarding with his people, heading toward safety, toward a future that never included her. She shouted his name. She shouted for help with the little strength she had left. No one heard her. The ship took off. The ship took off. It took off just as the planet began to split apart completely, leaving behind dozens of soldiers and entire families who didn't make it on time. It's always the same. It doesn't matter what world or species. When chaos arrives, very few stay to help. Most people run, and in that moment, in the midst of fire and screams, it seems like the only thing that truly exists is the instinct to survive, even if that means leaving others behind. The flames kept growing, and Pumyra, agonizing under the ruins of a planet she had sworn to protect with her life, came to a single conclusion as her consciousness faded. She had been abandoned. Her sacrifice, her lifelong loyalty, had meant nothing to those who were supposed to protect her as well. She died alone, she died in silence, she died convinced of that betrayal. We all carry some version of that moment. The time we gave everything and felt like no one noticed. The difference is that for most people, that pain stays inside. For Pumyra, the universe gave her a second chance to turn it into something much more dangerous, something older than life itself. Pumyra sensed that rage floating in the void, like someone who smells blood in the water from miles away. Pumyra. The immortal sensed Pumyra's hatred, beating even after her last breath, and decided that a soul so full of fury did not deserve rest. He brought her back to life out of pure calculation. He resurrected her with a precise purpose, to turn her into his stealthiest weapon, a spy. An invisible trail that, sooner or later, would lead him straight to the heart of his enemies. Before releasing her into the world, he tested her among the slaves captured from the mountains of Plunder, where a despot ruled with an iron fist over thousands of broken Thunderians. Pumyra was just one among them. Chains, forced labor. The certainty that her life no longer belonged to anyone except the vengeance that brought her back. Years went by like that. Years of breaking rocks, carrying chains, losing track of the days beneath the mountain. And at some point during that time, something strange began to happen inside her. The memories of her life before she died began to fade, as if the process that brought her back had burned away everything that wasn't useful for her purpose. She didn't remember her childhood or those she had loved before the war. The only thing that remained intact, as clear as the first day, was the exact moment when her people abandoned her beneath the ruins of Thundera. Had refused to let that memory ever fade. After those years, she was sold as merchandise to the City of Dogs, a place ruled by a single principle: whoever won 100 battles in the arena would earn their freedom. Whoever lost would never see the light of day again. It was there, in the midst of that hell of sand and blood, where her fate crossed once again with that of the young man she blamed for her death. Lion-O was no longer the boy who had fled on that ship, Planet. The years had turned him into a leader who traveled from world to world, gathering the few Thunderians who had survived the fall of their planet. He arrived at the City of Dogs, following the rumor of a captive Thunderian, forced to fight in the arena to survive, and decided that he would not let another of his kind die in chains if he could help it. As soon as she saw him enter the arena, Pumyra recognized him instantly. It was impossible not to. The same face she had etched in her memory since the day the ship took off without her, now turned into that of a man. He, on the other hand, felt nothing when he saw her. For Lion-O, she was just another prisoner to rescue, one face among many. When Thundera fell, he was just a child and never got to know her in life. When the master of the arena discovered the young man's intentions to free her, he decided to have some fun at their expense. He forced them to face his undefeated champion together, a monstrous beast raised and mutilated in the depths of the arena, against which no one had ever survived. The rule was simple. If they defeated it, both would win their freedom. If they fell, they would be added to the list of names no one remembered. In the middle of the fight, with the beast cornering Lion-O against the wall of the arena, Pumyra had for a moment the perfect opportunity. She could have taken a single step back, let the beast do what her own hatred had silently wished for years. And no one would have noticed in the chaos. She didn't. She threw herself at the beast, shielding Lion-O just in time, and together, blow after blow, they managed to bring down the creature that the entire arena thought was invincible. She told herself that saving him had been a strategic move. Keeping him alive brought her closer to the ThunderCats. But deep down, something much more dangerous than hatred was starting to stir inside her. Something even Pumyra hadn't anticipated. It's curious. We believe that revenge is the easiest thing to hold on to because it depends on no one but ourselves. But just a single gesture of humanity, just one, is enough to start cracking it. They won their freedom that day, and Pumyra, without fully planning it, joined the group that sought to defeat the very being who had resurrected her. That same night, while the others slept around the fire, Pumyra appeared to her in her dreams, his skeletal face illuminated by the same purple glow she had in her eyes. There was no need for him to remind her of anything. It was enough to show her, once again, the image of the ship leaving without her, your people. I gave you a purpose when they didn't even give you a second glance, he told her. And Pumyra, in the dream, felt no need to argue about it, because she knew it was true. Ra then told her about the stones of power, fragments of an ancient energy scattered throughout the world, which he needed to gather in order to complete a weapon capable of finishing what Ratia had started centuries ago. He ordered her to stay close to the young heir, find each stone before the ThunderCats, and bring it to him without anyone else knowing. Pumyra accepted without hesitation that same night, while the others rested around the fire. Pumyra devised a plan that none of her new friends would suspect. She told them that during her years of slavery, she had heard rumors of a stone capable of granting absolute power, and that Pumyra was already after it. If they wanted to prevent it from falling into his hands, they had to find it first. Lion-O didn't hesitate for a second. He knew what Pumyra was capable of, and the very idea of him getting something like that alarmed him more than any other danger they had ever faced. The whole group set out after the first clue that Pumyra, quite naturally, said she remembered. A hidden excavation in the heart of Mount Plondar. She led them to the mountain, where an army of slavers was digging in search of that same ancient weapon hidden beneath the rock. There, among tunnels and guards, she guided the group with a precision that no one questioned. Every step was calculated to serve two purposes at once. What Pumyra didn't anticipate was that the mountain was also waiting for them. As soon as the tunnel opened into a wider chamber, carved with symbols that even she didn't fully recognize, the guardians of Plondar fell upon the group from the shadows, armed with curved blades that gleamed with the same blue fire as the crystals embedded in the rock. For the first time since she started playing both sides, the danger was real for both sides equally. The fight broke out amid screams and sparks of metal against metal. Lion-O made his way toward the center, but a guardian larger than the others flanked him on a side. He couldn't cover. Pumyra ran to intercept him, and in the instant of exchanging blows, she lost her balance on the edge of a crevice that opened into the darkness at the bottom of the cave. For a moment, there was only emptiness beneath her feet. Lion-O didn't think twice. He broke off the attack mid-strike. He turned and grabbed her arm just as the rock gave way, pulling her body toward his with enough force for both of them to fall together away from the edge. They stayed like that for a whole second, too close, breathing the same dust, with both their hearts beating faster than any fight should cause. "Don't do that again," he said, still not letting her go, his voice lower than the situation required. She didn't respond. Not because she had nothing to say, But because for the first time since she was brought back to life, she didn't know which part of herself wanted to answer. They finished defeating the Guardians together, back to back, without needing words to coordinate. It's curious how fear, when shared, builds in minutes what trust takes months to build. Pumyra had been telling herself for weeks that it was all strategy, but a hand grasping yours at the edge of an abyss has nothing to do with missions or divided loyalties. It only understands that someone decided without thinking that your life mattered more than any plan. She fought side by side with Lion-O against the Mountain Guardians. She shielded him when she should have let him fall, and every time she doubted her own loyalty, she repeated the same phrase to herself. This is just the mission, but missions don't explain why the heart starts to fail at the wrong moment. As the days went by, while she played her double game, Lion-O began to look at her in a way she didn't expect, with trust, with warmth, with something that dangerously resembled love. The very feeling her mission required her to betray sooner or later. And she, the dead woman walking among the living with a dark purpose, felt that this affection pierced her deeper than any battle wound she had suffered in her previous life. Every gesture of trust she received was, deep down, a double betrayal to the ThunderCats, who had welcomed her without knowing what she really was, and to Pumyra. Each time the hatred that brought her back felt more distant, harder to hold on to as the days went by. Maybe that's the most uncomfortable part of this story. Sometimes, we are not who we choose to be, but who pain forces us to become. And when we finally find something real that pulls us out of that role, it's already too late to go back without breaking something. The breaking point came in the floating city of the Birdmen, a kingdom suspended in the sky that held one of the power stones Pumyra needed to complete his ultimate weapon. The ThunderCats arrived asking for help, but the ruler of the city refused to give them anything without testing them first. There was a bet, an impossible race between flying machines, won against all odds by Lion-O's group. But the ruler, humiliated, decided not to keep his word and locked them all up, condemning them to fall into the void from the heights of the city. It was Pumyra who, desperate, forced the issue. She cornered the ruler to force him to reveal where the stone was hidden, risking the entire mission to get her people out of prison. When they finally found it, she had in her hands the exact object she had secretly been searching for on Pumyra's behalf for weeks. And in that moment, with the stone between her fingers and Lion-O just a few steps away, Pumyra faced the hardest decision of her two lives: to protect those she had unintentionally started to consider her people, or to complete the mission that had given her a second chance at existence. And there, with the stone burning in her hands and the weight of two entire lives on her shoulders, something inside Pumyra silently broke in just an instant. All the days she had sworn meant nothing flashed through her mind. The first time he grabbed her arm at the edge of the abyss. The nights passed by the fire pretending to sleep while she memorized his breathing. The way he looked at her, as if she were something worth protecting and not a weapon waiting for the moment to fire. That feeling that had started to grow without permission. Stubborn, uncomfortable, real. But she also remembered the other thing, the scream that no one heard under the rubble of Thundera. The ship taking off without her, the cold certainty that when she needed them most, her people had decided that her life was worth less than their escape. Two truths can't fight in the same heart for long without one eventually winning. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if that could silence both voices. And when she opened them again, there was no doubt left in them. It was at that very moment that Pumyra's forces attacked. Pumyra had been tracking their every move, thanks to her. The entire chamber shook under the impact of the first wave, and the shadows filled with armed figures bursting in from the side tunnels. Then Pumyra appeared, claiming what belonged to him. Pumyra saw him, and then turned to look at Lion-O. The decision had already been made. She handed the stone directly to her true master. In front of everyone, in front of Lion-O, the silence that followed was worse than any battle cry. The same eyes that had looked at her with affection and trust now looked at her with betrayal written on their faces, trying to understand how someone so close could have been from the very first day, a weapon aimed straight at his heart. Pumyra knelt before Pumyra, kissed the symbol of her eternal loyalty, and before disappearing into the shadows with him, she left a poisoned promise hanging in the air. The next time they met face to face, she would finish what death couldn't complete the first time. But even as she walked away, something inside her hesitated, because not everyone who returns from death comes back whole. And somewhere beneath layers of hatred, resentment, and loyalty forced by a power that never asked her permission, she was still alive. Barely. The soldier who once died screaming a name, hoping that someone, somewhere, would hear her in time. Maybe the question isn't whether Pumyra will betray again. The question is how many of us are still fighting other people's battles with someone else's hatred, a burden we never chose to carry.